I'm Pastor Mark Buetow, and this is Bible 101 on HT Video Shorts. So, back down to the south, to the land of Judah, to the tribes of Judah, and little Benjamin was in there too, but mainly the tribe in the south, the southern kingdom of Israel, of God's people, was Judah, and the tribe of Judah. Remember, it's the tribe of Judah from which Jesus will eventually come. Now, all the kings of Judah, until the fall of Judah, to the Babylonians, which we'll get to, all the kings of Judah, unlike in the north, were of the same family. They were all descended from King David. Of course, King David was the first really good king of Israel after King Saul, and then his son Solomon and his son Rehoboam, in which the kingdom split. But then from Rehoboam on down, all the kings were still in the line of King Solomon and King David. So we call that a dynasty when you have kings from the same family. Well, you can read in 2 Kings and in 1 and 2 Chronicles how the kings fared. Many of the kings of Judah, as the kings of Israel in the north, were evil, and they followed idols and false religions and so on, and got the people into all sorts of trouble. And eventually, the tribes were squeezed and pressed even harder from the enemies around them. But from time to time, there was a faithful king, a king who trusted in the Lord's promises and looked to the Lord for help. And as we near the end of Judah's history, or at least Judah's history before the exile into Babylon, we come to one such king, King Hezekiah, one of the kings who was faithful in trusting the promises of the Lord and leading the people in the way of Yahweh. And so here's his story. So remember the Assyrians from our last episode. The Assyrians were one of the superpowers back in that day, and they were gobbling up all the lands around them. It was only recently they had gobbled up the land of Israel and the 10 northern tribes, and now they were coming to lay siege to Jerusalem and destroy the rest of God's people. Now the king at this time was a guy named Hezekiah. King Hezekiah was, again, in the dynasty of King David, from the line of King David. Many kings had gone before him. But King Hezekiah believed that he could buy off the Assyrians. So he sent them a bunch of gold and so on, but that didn't work. So the king of Assyria sent his army, and he surrounded Jerusalem with a whole bunch of troops, almost 200,000. And then they began shouting and scaring all the people, saying, "We're going to destroy you. Did the gods of any of the people around here save them? So do you really think your God is going to save you?" But Hezekiah knew the power of Yahweh, knew the power of the Lord, and so he appealed to the Lord to rescue him and save his people from the Assyrian enemy. Now, Hezekiah, unlike many of the kings of Israel, didn't worship the false gods of the religions around them, but worshiped the true God, remembered his promises to the house of David and to Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, and so he appeals to the Lord, and only to the Lord, to save them and his people from the enemies of Israel. He wants the Lord to deliver them from the hand of Assyria. It looks pretty bleak, but Hezekiah realizes if anyone can get them out of this, it's going to be the Lord. So enter the prophet Isaiah, who tells King Hezekiah that his prayer has been heard by the Lord, and the Lord is going to deal with the Assyrians and save his people. Because after all, we look back over the history of Israel, all this time, that's exactly what the Lord does. He's always saving his people. Now, if Yahweh says that the Assyrian army is not going to come into Jerusalem, then the Assyrian army is not going to come to Jerusalem. And that night, the angel of the Lord went through the camp of the Assyrian army and slaughtered 185,000 of the troops, destroyed them, wiped them out, so that they had nothing left to besiege the city of Jerusalem with, and they had to go home back to Assyria in a mighty victory for the Lord. And as was often the case among the kings of the Near East in the ancient times, when Sennacherib the king got home to Assyria and he was worshiping his false god in his temple, his sons decided that maybe one of them should be king, so they killed Dad, and that was the end of Sennacherib. And Jerusalem and the tribe of Judah, the people of God, were saved. So once again we see that where man fails and cannot save himself, the Lord is able to save him and to rescue him. That's what happened with King Hezekiah and the people of Judah. It's a reminder also for us in the church as God's people today. We can't save ourselves. We can't make things the way they should be, but the Lord has accomplished all things in Jesus. And it's important to see how the Lord preserved Judah, preserved the kings, even the wicked ones, who were in the line of King David, so that that line was never really died out, so that that line would be there when Jesus was born. Because remember, Jesus is born of the line line of King David, which is from the house of Judah, who was the son of Jacob, who was the son of Isaac, who was the son of Abraham. And God's promise, we can see, threads its way all through the Old Testament. So there you go. You have the Lord delivering his people yet again from their enemies. A reminder that the Lord, when he comes in the flesh, will always deliver us from our enemies of sin, death, devil, and hell, just as he delivered Hezekiah and the people of Judah and Jerusalem from the enemy of Assyria. Now, Assyria eventually fades out of the picture because there's a new superpower in town, and that's going to be the superpower of Babylon. But more about them in our future episodes. I'm Pastor Mark Buetow, and this has been another edition of Bible 101.